With Nigeria's presidential election fast approaching, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has delivered a speech tagged "A Vision for Policy Change and Institutional Reforms" at Chatham House in London. Mr. Obi, who spoke on how he intends to cope with the possibility of having a National Assembly that may be dominated by other parties, said he went through such experience as governor, where none of the 30 members of the State House of Assembly came from his political party.
First question is, how do you deal with the legislators, considering that Labour Party is probably not in control of the legislative arm of the government? Quite frankly, I've been through this as a governor. When I was elected and sworn in as the governor, I have 30 House members not from my party. In fact, nobody from my party was involved. As long as you are pursuing what is right, everybody will go with you, because the legislator is insecure in his place. He knows that his people are without job, and that's what he wants. He wants development. What else is he elected to do? It becomes a problem when you are pursuing transactional policies, which will benefit you, or you're engaging in nepotism where you have to. But if you address it by strictly following the Constitution, which spells out that the system is characterized by simply that we have diversity and all is included, and you did the right things, you don't need to worry about that. On the issue of IPOB, maybe you're not following me. Even yesterday, I spoke about Biafra being ended 53 years ago. It's all over the place in this space. I condemn all agitators, but in condemning them, you have to look at what brought about these agitations all over the place. It's not only IPOB. We have Yoruba Nation movement. We have all sorts. When you have created this level of massive poverty, where 63% of your population is poor, you're going to create all sorts of problems. I was speaking to a British minister this morning. I said we have about 40% unemployment. And we have about 60% youth unemployment, young people in their productive age doing nothing. If you have 15% unemployment in Britain today, you're going to have massive, remember, agitation. Nobody will be able to leave his house. So what you're seeing is a cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years, which will be solved by good governance. When people start seeing justice, fairness, and inclusive government and doing the right thing, all those things will start reversing itself. And that is what me and that is offering. I will talk and discuss with all agitators. There's nothing wrong in that. People agitate even in my house, and I talk with them. So I'll deal with everybody. I'll show you of that. Don't worry about that. On the issue of health, yes, we have a problem with health. We have underinvested, and because our government have not prioritized our development agenda, everybody knows that the only measure of development that is recognized globally today is Human Development Index. And this is hanged on 3 items: life expectancy, which is health. And we are low in that. Nigerian life expectancy today is about 50-something, as against the global average of 72. So we're low. Same in education. So it's to prioritize that. I just gave somebody an example. In the past 5 years, from 2015 to 2021, Nigerian budget in health is under 2.5 trillion naira for 200 million people. It's unacceptable. Even this year, our budget for health is about 1.5 trillion. Our budget for education is about 2 trillion. Two of them combined, annual budget is about 3.5 trillion. When your 6-month budget for subsidy, which is a criminalized, listen, if 3.6 trillion is unacceptable, you have to put money in key development areas. As Professor Johnson had just mentioned, and I read out here, that what separates country, rich and poor, is health and education. So it's clear. So we will deal with it. But he said, how do you cover it? Nations of our size have covered it. How did India, for 1.4 billion people, cover issue of health? How did Indonesia cover that? We have big nations that have done it well. If we don't know how to do it, we learn from them. There's nothing wrong in learning if you don't know how to do it. I'll show you of that. We're going to turn around the power sector. Nigeria generates about, today, 56,000 megawatts of electricity for 200 million people. And South Africa, the second biggest in terms of economy in the continent,
5 to 6,000.
5 to 6,000, that's 5 to 6,000, sorry. And South Africa, the second biggest economy, 60 million people, generates about 40 to 50,000. And South Africa, in the past 3 months, have declared emergency in power and said anybody can generate up to 100 megawatts without license. So somebody who is 60 million, generating about over 40,000, declared emergency. What do you think somebody with 2 million people generating 5 to 6,000 will do? War. I'm going to declare war on power, and I'll solve it. Anybody who stands on the way, so be it. Bringing back foreign investor is very simple, Paul. Foreign investor is like bee and honey. All you need is to create honey. The way bee will find the place is very simple. Foreign capital is scared of corruption. It's scared of bad policies. It's scared of where there's no rule of law. You need to put a regulatory environment that makes it conducive. You need to secure it. That is at the heart of what Datti and I are offering. We will build that intangible assets of securing the country, making sure that we govern to rule of law. We will fight corruption. Datti have a record that is the only National Assembly member who refused to buy property of government when it was offered to all National Assembly members. You can go and look at his record. If you have seen anywhere he has compromised or put himself in a transactional position. And I'll stop running. I know how I approached him. And I told him, I and you owe it to save our people. That's why we came together. And we came back and said, we'll work as a team. We'll solve this problem. Go and check my record. I've governed the state for 8 years. And I've challenged everybody. Paul, you were there. I've been the only governor till today. The day I left office, I was not owing salary, pension, gratuity, or any contract to any supplier. And I left with 3 banks in Nigeria, which I say every day. Access Bank of Nigeria, Fidelity Bank of Nigeria, and Diamond Bank. I left over $150 million. I didn't say naira. And I have over 30 billion naira. And Anambra State, you can go and verify anywhere. I've never had a bottle. Anambra State have never bought me. There's no land allocated directly or indirectly by me, and I've signed over several thousands of CFO. Anambra has never bought me a bottle of water since I left office. So you can go. We will fight and stop corruption.
Yeah.
The first thing about stopping corruption is yourself. If you're not involved, your wife is not involved, your family is not involved, those around you are not involved, you reduce it by over 50%. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm sure, Paul, you know that. We are committed. We can't disappoint these youths. We must build a new Nigeria. And we'll deal with that. Investors will come back. Those who left, even the young people who are today living, they'll come back. We want to bring them back. Nigerians are prepared to come back if they can find that they have a country to go back to. This green passport, people must be proud to use it. On issue of capital, where do you find money? My young brother, there's nothing wrong in borrowing. Borrowing is a legitimate way of every government I've studied in the world borrow. Even Britain, as we speak, owns over 70% of their GDP. Every government I know lives on borrowing. Even Norway, with 1.4 trillion sovereign wealth, is owing. The economies of the world, the third biggest nation in the world is America. The debt of America today is almost 100% of their GDP. The second, China, is almost over 60% of their GDP. Japan owes over 230% of their GDP. But let me tell you the difference. Japan is owing over 230% of their GDP. They invested the money to save their economy. And in that, even with that, Japan is still the highest holder of US treasuries. So there's something they can fall back on. What has happened? So borrowing is not wrong. If I have done, I compare two countries that have borrowed with Nigeria and how well they've done. But what has happened is that when you borrow for consumption, you have a crisis. Nigeria borrowed for consumption. Nigeria in 2015 had a GDP per capita of $2,550. And they were owing about 15 trillion naira. Today, with central bank ways and means, we're owing over 75. So we have grown that debt by about 400%. But our per capita is 2,000. That means that the money we borrowed was thrown away. So that is what I'm going to reverse. We will restructure the debt as it is today. We will restructure it and put it a long time to be able to pay it. I'm a finance person, that is one. And then we will not say, like I said here, no more borrowing for consumption. We will see borrow, people will see it, it will be transparent, it will be for investment. And that's what we intend to do. Countries have been in this situation before. We're not in a situation where other countries haven't passed before. It's a question of showing leadership, and we will be able to solve it. Thank you.